Hi everyone. Right, I'm going to try and do the second one of these videos because I got another question in. Hopefully you like the first video. This one was from Louise. Hi Louise. And it said, could you do a little video on starting to read, stroke, phonics, etc. I like something productive to do with my daughter. So I thought I'd do a quick 5-minute video on that, on sort of initial reading and starting to read. The first thing to say about this is there's loads of advice online about it, from all sorts of kind of different channels. So whatever kind of decision you make with the reading, I think the big thing is to try and be consistent in whatever you're doing. I mean, you'll have seen loads of things. I've got bored with me today. You'll have seen loads of things, like advice to start with, like these letters, which teachers... Oh, it's still back to front. Oh well. My screen's back to front. It doesn't matter. As you can see, if you read back to front, that says sat pin, or to put it another way... So, oh no, I can't do it back to front. I'll have to get that fixed. Yeah, so the letters S-A-T-P-I-N are always good ones to start with because they are more straightforward sounds to say. And once you kind of work through with those sounds, you can then move on to other ones. So there's various different progressions. I mean, a quick kind of Google of this will show you loads of stuff. I mean, I literally typed in badly reading sound, reading sounds initial, except I spelt it wrong. And there's tons of different things that you can find, and kind of no one of these is particularly going to be better than another. I don't think. It just kind of depends on what works for you. So that's the first thing to say. Obviously, once you kind of work through that progression, you then start building in things such as CVC words, which for those of you who don't know, it means consonant, vowel, consonant. So, for example, from the... I have to write backwards again. From the sat pin thing, that would be like... Oh, yeah, okay, that works, kind of. Oh, maybe not. That'd be like a word like tap. There you go, it's not bad. It'd be like a word like tap. So your child can use their initial sounds to sort of be able to sound these out part by part. And it's quite straightforward. It's really good for building confidence, that is. The other thing to say is that if you don't use these already, in schools we use something called sound buttons. And again, most of you probably would have seen this, but for those of you who haven't, the idea is that you simply put your finger underneath each button when you say the sound. So you go like t, a, p, tap, like that. And it kind of gets more complicated than that when you sort of progress with the reading. But that's the basic premise of the idea. I really like sound buttons. I think they're great. The other thing I was going to say, though, because you can probably kind of find all of that advice online anyway, is there's a bit more to it, depending on how kind of quirky you want to be with your teaching. So we are a bit odd, but at home we have like these little kind of pictures up, and each one of these corresponds to a different letter of the alphabet. So, and they're from a Waldorf teaching book, which I quite like. So this is, as you can probably tell, this is the G page, although it is back to front. This is the G page, and we just simply photocopied it and we have it up on our wall. But there's loads of different things that start with the letter G, like there's the girl and the goose and the gate and the giraffe. And this kind of ties in as well with sort of fairy tale things too. And we do lots of kind of fairy tale stuff in our house. You don't kind of have to have a fairy tale link. So I would say that if you were making your own sort of one of these type pictures, the thing to do would be to include reference points which are pertinent to your family or relevant to you. The other thing to say about it as well is, and here I'm going to draw a picture, you might have heard me just say that was like the letter G. So I don't really like using the wrong letter names, so I know that's quite popular. amongst teachers and parents and stuff, and people will call the letter G G and things like that. Now, I don't really like that, so I'm kind of more of a fan of, for example, if you've got a cat, I'm going to draw you on this, a bit like my visual tuition stuff this is. So let's say you've got a cat, right? And a cat, oh, hold on, a cat, there you go, a cat starts with the letter C, obviously. So it is a cat, it is a letter C, but in terms of what it says, one of the things it can say is it can say C. I think this is really important because if you teach children that the letters aren't the letter, like, or haven't got the correct names, basically, I think it causes all sorts of problems later. For example, like the letter C is a funny one because obviously if you go around calling it K and only thinking it goes K, then what do you do when, you know, it's making a soft sound, like a S sound? It makes more sense to me that the letter has its proper name, but that it can make its own kind of different sounds. And children are perfectly capable of understanding that concept. It's really not that different to understanding the idea that a dog is a dog and goes woof, but it can also go bark. So I think it's really important not to patronise children in that way. There you go. Yeah. That kind of covers it, Louise. I tried to fit it into 5 minutes. It's got over to 6.5. I might do a follow-up video to this to kind of add some other initial reading ideas, because there's bunches of stuff I didn't talk about and how you kind of progress from those initial sounds forwards. So I might do a second video on it if you like. Right, Mr. Smith over and out.